Hello, welcome once again to Off the Shelf, Books on Tour. We are reviewing a lovely children's book for children ages 3 to 7, and I think it could go much further than that. The Raindrop Who Couldn't Fall. And in this day and age, with all the rain we've had, I think it's the only one that didn't. Kirsti Call is our guest. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Delightful book. First book?
It's my first book.
First book. How long before you said, here, take it away?
How long did it take for the book to come?
From beginning to...
3 years.
Yeah, long and arduous.
Yes.
Yes. And painful at times?
Yes. I had no idea how much an editor sometimes will want to change.
And can take out of it.
Take out and add and...
Yeah. How many pages when you submitted it? I was surprised that there's a limit of pages in a children's book.
Well, you're supposed to have less than 500 words these days. Mm-hmm. So I actually do not remember the exact word count to this one. It's been so long.
Did you feel, damaged when you got what they chose to put in?
No, I actually... It was interesting because I, at first, wasn't going to have a science book. We haven't talked about that yet, but that was not what I originally had planned. I'm a marriage and family therapist, so I had all these questions at the end of the book about, have you ever felt like Plink? Those types of kind of therapeutic processing questions, and those are not in the book, and instead, I became a science writer.
So they picked that as what the public would most respond to?
And I agree. I think it turned out I think it's really lovely.
I can't tell you I've ever remember reading a children's book with a glossary in it, which I thought was fascinating because you're teaching them what a glossary is before middle school.
Yeah.
And what reference is before middle school. So they see it, they might not appreciate it or value it, but it won't be an unfamiliar word when an English teacher says, include a glossary.
Well, and it was actually fun because the publisher asked me to make up a bunch of activities, and it was fun to come up with activities that had to do with the water cycle and states of matter. And
so it took you out of where you thought you would be.
Yes.
Right. But that's not a bad thing.
No, and I actually, now it's so great for school visits. And
you find the kids respond to it.
They do.
So how is the book going? You getting good feedback?
I am. It's going really well. One little girl told me I'm her favorite author now, which was really exciting.
Excellent. I find that some people think the author is the be-all to end-all, and they ask them questions beyond the scope of the book. You know what I mean? Allah be praised, you made it to being an author, you published a book, therefore you must have all the answers to life. Not yet, huh?
Well, I have had some interesting questions at, at school visits, like, how can you write a story about a raindrop who can't fall? That's not possible. Good, these kids are thinking of interesting things to talk about.
And you took them a little bit outside the box.
Yeah, because it's a fictional story, and yet we have some nonfiction.
But he is a lovely little raindrop.
Yes.
And I like the premise that he had to courage, and he had to call upon his innate, and you wanted that specifically so children who are afraid to put their foot in the water or go outside their safety zone, not too far, but you have to test yourself or you'll be afraid for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and also perseverance. Plink is the name of the raindrop, and she just keeps trying and trying and trying and doesn't give up. So I like that also.
And that's not a bad thing because there's a lot of knockovers in life, and you have to pick yourself up quite often. Are you working on another one? Would you like to make it a series, or are you just going to...
I haven't thought about making this one a series. I actually have a lot of stories that, that I'm submitting right now. And
good.
Hopefully I'll have more coming out.
You sit there holding your breath and biting your...
No, I just keep writing. There's no point because in publishing, it's just such a long wait.
And you never know what's going to tweak their interest.
And you have to find the right, the exact right fit, the right publisher, or the right agent. And
which is difficult at best.
Yes.
But the internet has certainly made it a little bit easier for an author who's just trying to start out to judge their own writing, to get feedback from others. You say you have a group to sit down and meet with. All we used to hear is book clubs where people sat and read the book and talked about it. Now you have authors groups.
We do. We have critique groups.
Mm-hmm.
I do it in person in Andover and then online also.
And is that as helpful to you as it is to the people who you're critiquing?
Yes, definitely.
Does it surprise you, the ideas that they come up with?
It does. And it is, when you get critiques, it's an interesting process because you might get like 6 totally different ideas and you have to decide, okay, what resonates with me? Or you can just decide that none of it works and you just stick with your gut.
Yeah, well, most of the time, if you have a good center, if you know who you are. But unfortunately, everybody doesn't. So,
That's true.
But something like this could give a child and even a parent, in the Globe today, interesting article with all the children finishing school and getting that big pile of library books from the library that they have to read before school starts, again in September, but whoever has time. And it's usually the end of August, where's my library book, and I didn't finish the... So this father comes home from work at night, does, the dinner and everything, and then he'll say, reading bee. And everybody in the house drops exactly what they're doing, and they have to sit down and read. So that the mother gets a half an hour, to put her feet up and read the book she's trying. He gets to sit down and catch up on his day. The kids all read, and very often it'll go into 45 minutes to an hour.
What a fantastic idea.
I thought that, I've heard a lot of reading ideas over the years, but that really worked for me. And by the end of summer, they've not only read the pile of library books, but they have been intrigued enough to go pick up another book by the same author, or they're reading something they want to read instead of having to read.
Feeling. Yeah. Well, we have reading parties at my house. We all just pile on the bed and read. And I used to do that as a kid, so.
And don't they love reading out loud?
They do.
They do. And I find that even the elderly in nursing homes, everybody loves to be read out loud to. I tell a story, my mother had the books on tape, and we would be on vacation, and we would walk in, and she'd be in the middle of a book, and husband and I would sit down, stretch out on the couch, and get involved in the story, and she'd realize you were listening to her book, and she'd shut it off. But it's pleasurable. It's enjoyable to sit back and have somebody read it to you. When you go to the schools, do you read to the children? Do you read the whole book?
I read the whole book. And if I've got a large group, I have a presentation so it's really big on a big screen so people can see, so all the kids can see the pictures.
And they respond well?
Yes.
Do they write you thank you notes for being there?
Yes, I've gotten thank you notes and pictures of Plink, and I also sing a song with them, and I got feedback from parents that they're singing the song at home, and so.
That's not a bad thing. We use music as a learning tool. Somebody who just can't remember something, we were laughing about Twinkies the other night. My husband started to sing Twinkie, Twinkie, Little Star, and that young person will never forget that particular word that Dad was embedding in his subconscious forever. And if he does, Dad, it just starts to hum, and it comes back. Yeah. Will you, now when you hear from the publisher and they tell you that they like one of the stories you submitted, do you have to go back and pull it up and polish it up, or do you know each one of them as if they were your children?
I know them very well because I revise so many times before I submit.
Really?
So, but when a publisher says that they like it, usually they might give some suggestions on how to change it. Or they might say that this seems like it's, we want this to be a little bit different, and then you can change it yourself and send it back to them.
Now, did you pick out your illustrator, or did
I did not.
No, she did a beautiful job.
She did a beautiful job, and I just met her.
I was so surprised that the last author, was it Paul's, had never met his illustrator, and it's such a perfect match. And I find that extraterrestrial, that your words and their interpretation, but that's got to make you feel good that somebody else can interpret your vision.
Oh, well, it was wonderful, and it was so much fun to meet her. I met her at a writing conference in New England, in Springfield. And it was so fun to talk to her face to face, and she said my story resonated with her, which just made me so happy. You know, and you can tell because she did a really good job with the pictures, with the illustrations.
With 5 children, I don't know when you find time to write that many stories, but good luck to you. You go to the laundry room like the lady on television and pull out the dryer sheets for install. I thought that was so funny. I could never get out of the laundry room with the piles of laundry there. I couldn't find the dryer sheets. Do you find this part of it, coming out in public and going to authors' meetings, is that exhausting or is that as enjoyable as writing?
Oh, I love it. I especially love the school visits because it's so much fun to talk to the kids about how each person has a story and that they have a story inside of themselves and that only they can tell their story because they're unique. And so I love kind of spreading that message and hopefully getting them excited about reading and writing.
But if you don't meet them and you don't find out what's important to them, you're not going to write the next book that they're going to respond to.
That's true.
I love playing with kids. They tell it like it is. When the Harry Potter series came out, my kids were all reading it, and I didn't. And then I realized I was with the YMCA at the time, and I read all 5 of them. And I can walk in a room of screaming pubescents. Miss Professor McGonagall says, cease and desist. And they do, because it's an identity with something that's important to them. I valued reading those books so much, and I thought she did so well. She's got $10 words at the end of every sentence, and I never saw a kid go looking for a dictionary. The way she writes, they know what the word means by the time.
From the context, yeah.
That's, to me, respecting a kid, and I think that's why they responded so to the books and what she wrote. And apparently you found the same little Glenn, or they wouldn't be as pleased with Plink as they are. Now, the only thing that perplexed me, does he recycle? When he gets down here, does he go back up and start all over again? Okay, I was worried about that because I didn't want him to be down here forever.
No, yeah.
No. Now, do you let your children read the books? Do they get excited for you, and do they want your autograph?
My children, they're very excited.
Oh, good.
They're very excited. They loved, well, before even the book came out, my daughter told the school librarian, my mom is an author. You need to have her come to the school. And so the school librarian said, are you an author? And I said, not yet. We have to get the book out, and then I'm happy to come.
Has it changed your social status?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Good, you're still you. Don't lose that.
I don't think so. I think yeah, I'm still me.
Do any of the kids want to write?
Yes.
Oh, good.
My 2 daughters are writing very creative stories right now, which is a lot of fun.
Good. And do you find insight into them when you read what they write?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And they're very creative.
But it's another way of getting to know your children. Each one of them is a treasure chest, and you got to find the key. and I find when they write it out, be it a letter or a school assignment, it's you can find these little things that aren't visible to the naked eye, but come out onto a piece of paper.
And then you can talk about it.
It does. It makes, even with the Harry Potter, I can have an instant identity with a group of kids if I speak Harry Potter. If I talk me, what's the old lady want? Hubby, how's hubby doing? Is he, thrilled with this newfound fame?
He is.
Good for him.
And he actually helped me write my first rhyming manuscript last week. So that was fun.
Yeah. And how long does that take?
Oh, well, I mean, it it still needs work, but we spent.
You like to revise.
I like to revise, but I wrote it first, then he went over it with me, probably an hour or 2 or 3, and we'll rewrite it again.
Does Sparks fly? Does he get picky?
Well, he's very good with meter, so that's good for me because I'm more of a prose writer, and he's been telling me that I need to try rhyme, so that's how I got him involved. I said, well, if you want me to try this, help me.
Yeah, then you gotta. The only thing I know about poetry is iambic pentameter. I thought that was the coolest word ever, and I left it right there. I didn't go any further. We've had a couple of poetry books here, and I don't think I embarrass the authors. And I admire them, because poetry isn't everybody's forte, but that's even harder to get published.
It is.
Than a book.
But it's a fun exercise. It's like a puzzle.
Yeah, but that's probably why it overwhelms me, and I really don't want to have any. Much prefer. I like the little things, and I can't open a book without making the cameras go nuts, but on the sides, they've got these little questions about scientific and what makes a cloud do this, and the thinking process again. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, the publisher asked me to write those kind of facts about clouds and rainbows and raindrops.
They're enjoying and they're learning as well. Do you find the kids respond to the questions? Or?
Well, what I like about this is you can just read the story, and for younger kids, you don't have to go back to any of the science unless you want to. So there's another layer. The second time you can maybe read and learn about the science. Or if they ask when you're reading, you can read about the science. And then older kids can look at it themselves and learn.
Or even a 5-year-old who's read the book at 3.
Yeah.
Pick it up at 5 and say, what is this in the sidebar? Look at that, because they're so much smarter at 5 than they were at 3.
It's true.
Yes. Most enjoyable. Will you follow the similar format, or do you take your lead from the publisher? You give them the story and they tell you how they want to lay it out?
I give them the story and then they decide. So.
And when you get rich and famous, will you turn around and tell them what to do?
I think that's what most authors do. I don't know. I don't know.
When we interview them here, first, fast, and foremost, it's all new and different.
It's a collaboration.
Right. Then when you get really famous, we can't get past your people.
Oh.
You may very well remember us and being here and want to come back with us. But you say to your people, DCAT contacted me, book me. They haven't got a clue who DCAT is. And they don't follow through. Nicholas Sparks' people didn't follow through.
Well,
and he came to Boston. Well, no, we met him at Harvard Coop.
Oh.
And he was so funny. He's such a devil. He took the microphone and interviewed me.
So did you interview him at the very beginning of his career?
Very beginning, message in a bottle.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And he remembered my son's name. He really wanted to come back. And it just didn't get recognized in his business. And when he got to Boston, he didn't see it on the list. And he made it happen, which was very complimentary, and I valued it and I appreciated it. But it's very hard for us to get through to you when you get rich and famous. So you're going to have to remember us.
Definitely.
Yes, put that in your date book that you promised to come back with your 25th book and your anniversary of Plink. You've always wanted to be a writer. You've always been a reader.
Yes.
So this is.
And as a kid, I used to write little novels, 25 pages handwritten.
So you got to be what you wanted to grow up to be.
This is on my bucket list.
Congrats. What was it like when the box arrived and waiting for it? Isn't it like being pregnant for 15 months?
It was so exciting.
Yes, congratulations. That's the end of our interview.
Thank you.
When they pick the next book and you have it all right, will you come back and play with us?
I would love to.
We would love to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for coming and being with us. That's it for Off the Shelf. Books on Tour. The book is The Raindrop Who Couldn't Fall. Very well done. Have a good day.